Excuse me, sir, what's your name? Were you on the winning team today? Yes. You were? Did you score any baskets? Yes. Very good. Okay.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Athlete Alchemy, the podcast where we tell the stories of athletes, sport professionals, and around sports that are taking their athletic potential and turning it into lifelong excellence. Today, we have a very, very special guest. We have Lonnie Mulligan. She is currently the Big Ten Fellow at the University of Maryland, a role that I also had, so super excited to kind of reflect on this great connection point there. But Lonnie is also a former Division I soccer player. She's also, I will call her a fitness guru and things like that. But Lonnie has a great story that I'm excited to share with our audience today. And also really, really excited to connect. Me and Lonnie, we've connected before, but I'm excited to learn. I'm a learner at heart. So I'm excited to hear your story and really ultimately share your story with the rest of the audience today. So Lonnie, welcome to the platform.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here. You've been such a great resource for me. So just happy to support you. And then also, like you said, amplify our voices. And so just appreciate you having me on tonight.
All right. And then Lonnie and then the rest of our audience out there, I like to start every show by giving people their flowers. I think it's important to appreciate the people that you're in community with, especially someone that took out their time to join our platform and to join our community. So Lonnie, I'll start with saying kudos to you for kind of taking this Big Ten fellowship and running it your way. I think it's super dope to see. I enjoy seeing the content that you've been sharing with the audience, but sharing with me, which has been great to see. It's kind of how the Big Ten Fellowship, I think, has evolved. I remember like a part that me and a few of the other Big Ten Fellows that I did connect with, we always wished that there was more connectivity between us. So I get to see like all of the things that you're doing through the fellowship, getting it to explore other opportunities, at different universities, and just, taking it to the next level, I would say, since, when I was there, which wasn't that long ago, but it may feel like it. So shout out to you for kind of sharing your experience. But also too, like the fitness thing. For me, I'm still like evolving of like, I've been out of sports coming up on like 7 years now, but like I'm still trying to figure out like, all right, what do I enjoy doing as far as like fitness, right? Like I've played adult basketball, I've played the flag football thing, I've gone to like some of the HIIT classes and stuff like that. So I'm still trying to figure that out. So seeing all of what you're doing with the fitness thing is really inspirational to me. I see you get like your Maryland Made teammates at your classes, like you doing it all.
Everybody, for sure.
Exactly. So you're working there, you're doing the fellowship. You got a lot going on. So I just want to say greatly appreciate you for your time here today. But really excited to see what you continue to do. So yeah, that's how I like to start these episodes off.
Well, I'm going to start it right back because I will say, like, you give me my flowers. Obviously, I appreciate that. But the work that we do now and in my role specifically, like these last 2 years, could not have been the way they are without you. So I hope as you reflect upon, hearing my story that you gave yourself those flowers too, because I want to give you yours. Like, even now, Risa, there's still things that like you brought to the team and the department that we continue to amplify and continue to build on. So everything that we do is a reflection of the hard work that all the previous teams have done. So thank you also.
I appreciate that a lot. And shout out to Maryland Made. We always used to say the #1 student athlete development unit in the nation. So I think that is very, very true still to this day. So shout out to Maryland Made. All right, Lonnie, but before you got to Maryland, we got to take it back to your roots. You grew up in Mississippi. I got some family from the South, but Mississippi to me might be a little bit different South than kind of what I'm used to. So tell me about your roots. Tell me kind of where you grew up and kind of when did sports and soccer maybe even come into the picture?
Yeah, so it's funny. Anytime I tell someone I'm from Mississippi, they're like, "People live there, like it's a real place," and I'm like, "Yes, there are real people there." So growing up in Mississippi is very family oriented community. I think when we get further into the podcast about how much community means to me, all of that is definitely rooted in being from the deep South. I have 3 incredible siblings, 2 parents who, from a very early age, have really used sports to allow us to meet and connect with so many people from different walks of life. And so sports has been in our life from the beginning. Having 2 older siblings who tried all the sports, my parents are like, we're a huge sports family. I tried every single thing, and soccer for me is what stuck. And being in the South and being a person of color playing a predominantly white sport, I think is something that has really curated and made me who I am today, especially the environment that I did grow up in. So it definitely wasn't easy, and moving 15 hours away, now living in the DMV, I'm like, oh my goodness, like life is a lot different. Just walking around, going to the store, going to the doctor, just professionals in general, the diversity that exists in this area is completely different from what I experienced and witnessed as a young child, young adult. But with that being said, I think it has really made me who I am. It's had me very rooted in family and rooted in faith, but also just remembering where you come from. It really stems my drive and my need to succeed, knowing how hard that my parents, grandparents, and so on have worked to get me to the place that I am now.
We definitely couldn't do it without, our families, and definitely couldn't do it without kind of our hometown and where we come from. I think it's beautiful to see all of us as like we develop as adults, and some of those things that we hold near and dear to us that are an extension. Like sometimes I'll just be like driving, sometimes I'm like, yo, I feel like I look like my dad right now, or just like certain things like that, or just like if I'm going to the store, you people say Philly has like an accent or something like that, but like sometimes I'll think about something and I'm like, oh man, this is really some Philly stuff right now that's going on. So definitely always important to like reflect on like where we, who we are. But I think a lot of that stems from where we come from as well. And then something that really for me, right, when I'm thinking about like soccer, I don't know if I like think of like the South as like a soccer hub or like even Mississippi as like a soccer hub. So like why was it soccer for you, and like what about soccer really stuck out, and that kept, like you said, like not too many black girls, especially like growing up when they were younger, that play soccer is probably in the South. Like now you see the U.S. team and stuff like that starting to like starting to maybe turn the corner, maybe, but it's still not where it needs to be, obviously, right? So like why soccer for you?
Yeah, so I think it's important to acknowledge that I think the sport in general, the access to be successful or to play in the levels that you need is not there. And I think the South in general is behind in providing that access. So for me, I got into soccer. My older brother, he's 8 years older than me, tried all the sports. So baseball, he did everything. And so my parents kind of filtered us through the same way. And so because he had done baseball, soccer, we did softball, we did basketball, we did literally everything until my parents just say that it started at 4 years old. I just was asking to play soccer again. As the year went around, Lonnie, what do you want to do? I want to play soccer. Lonnie, what do you want to do? I want to play soccer. And so that's honestly, my parents are the most amazing people in this entire planet to me, but I feel like they gave me that real autonomy from a really young age to kind of choose what I wanted to do. And that has helped me, and it helped me remember that like I chose this and falling in love with the sport that may not always love you back as far as that representation. Um, yeah, soccer was just honestly maybe because it's like I think the hand-eye coordination thing wasn't really working with with softball, and I did dance and all that stuff. Just wasn't my thing. I think the grit of soccer, being with a large team, um, the feeling of scoring a goal. Like I think early on, when you get that taste of what it's like to, make somebody proud or to make the winning pass, like that's just something that kind of sticks with you after the season and stuff. So, to give a little context about what it was like playing soccer in the South. So the I think if you put it in pillars of like kind of the level or divisions that you would want to be in, there's like recreational league, like everybody can play, you don't have to try out. Then there's like club soccer, and from like my memory, there's an additional level that exists that your top 25 schools, like they're looking at that pool of individuals, and in Mississippi they actually don't have that top tier of training level that D1 D2 schools are really looking to recruit out of. And so um I was blessed and lucky to have coaches who put me out there, took us to tournaments, just throwing our name in the hat basically, and got connected with um, somebody for like our ODP, which is like a Mississippi, it's like an Olympic development program. But got selected for that, met someone there. They were like, where have you been hiding all this time? And I'm like, what? Like, just literally having fun, enjoying myself. But from there, had the opportunity to travel to Alabama, so about 4 hours away, kind of like a discovery player. Me and another teammate, we were able to travel pretty frequently there to train, but also play games. And so that was the real taste of like, oh, there's a whole level to this that like we didn't know existed. My parents were all learning this for the first time. And so I would definitely say it was a challenge, but it gave me an edge because I always felt like I had something to prove because I wasn't as technical. I didn't have the skill that everyone else did, but I knew that like putting in the work early and being confident in the abilities that you do have got me a full ride scholarship to a SEC program. So I would say that it all worked out.
Man, I mean, it don't get no bigger than that. If
I
we
know,
if we talk
right?
about college sports, and then of course, I did my research as well. And a question that I have is like with soccer, and you mentioned it, right? Like soccer is a sport where maybe the access or maybe the resources aren't there for one, like parents to
Right.
like know, all right, how, like where I need to enroll my kids, like what are the types of programs, especially like in our communities. Of course, is like basketball and football, and like to a certain extent football. I played football competitively pretty much my whole life, but like there's not like no AAU football, but basketball, like AAU is like grown and it's known, but for soccer it seems like the club level, or like those travel teams, like you said, you were traveling to Alabama just to play soccer.
Right.
And then were you able, because I know in high school, I think you ran track too, right? Like,
Yeah, I
so
did.
like, did you have, because my girl Kendall, like she coaches basketball, she coaches at a high school, and she be having girls that are on her team in season, in basketball season, they'll be missing games to
Mm.
go play club soccer in like Florida or something like that, for go to camp. So like, did you ever have any like conflicting like schedulings when it came to track and soccer, and like how did you manage that at an early age?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other conflicting thing with that scheduling would be academics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that I remember having this like aha moment in like sixth grade. And I'm like making my first B and my dad and I'm crying and I'm like, this is the worst day ever. And I'm like, Dad, I can't be a star soccer player and be a straight A student. And he's like, no one told you to do that. Like, so I think like there are moments when you learn to prioritize what's most important to me. And for me, my parents really encouraged me to dive into my craft. Like I have super supportive parents who saw that I had a gift and were like, oh, like we really think that this is a pathway for you to, get a scholarship to go to college. And that's kind of the route that all three of my siblings went to school, either on athletic or full academic scholarships. And so whenever you kind of find that niche, like they were like, no, we're going head first. We're supporting you however I can. But when thinking about those disparities between the accessibility to soccer, I was on scholarship. Like, I mean, I was recruited from rec league, basically. Like I was playing, the club coaches is at the same um, football club, and they come around and kind of scout and see if there's any young kids that are noticeably a little bit more advanced than the others. And I kind of just got picked out of a pool of like, hey, we want you to try out. You don't have to pay the monthly fees. I was so that right there, the talent I would say was the piece that allowed me to be in the space, not the financial assistance. Well, the financial assistance from the club was the reason why I feel like I got the training that I did. And then from there, um, my parents building relationships like from a very young age, just watching them prioritize that with other people, like having three other siblings who were also doing AAU basketball. My older sister was a competitive cheerleader. My younger sister played competitive soccer, and having two parents that work hard every single day. I mean, I was sent off with teammates, knowing that I would get the proper rest. I was able to, leave a day before the tournament. They would come up the morning of. Like, I think my parents sacrificed so much for me. And so, no, seeing the way that they navigated, like, how can we put our daughter in the best position? Like, that was my constant fuel to, like, okay, they're leaving at 3 in the morning to be at my 8 a.m. game. And, like, I've been sleeping in a hotel with my friends, having fun, going to dinner. And so it was that is pretty much kind of what it was like a lot of chaos, a lot of conflict. Running track was in different seasons as far as when I started taking it more seriously. It was always just like you would go to track practice like at the end of school, have 2 hours, and then I would go play club at night. I feel like the grind was crazy, but always knew that I had a passion for soccer, but also like that was for me my ticket to get into college. And so I did whatever was needed, and track was always like that kind of like backup. Hey, this will help you stay fit. And so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I had a different grind for sure. Being SEC prospect. And I'm a flex for you a little bit, but 94 goals in high school is crazy. I'm not too familiar with a golden boot, but I know you got that golden boot for 4 years at your high school. So you don't like again, you're doing your thing. And
Thank
you
you.
start to get recruited, and you end up going to Ole Miss, SEC school. So what was the deciding factor on Ole Miss? And then take me back to like Lonnie as a, you know, graduating high school senior, going into Ole Miss. Like, what were you thinking at this time?
So 16-year-old Lonnie is like playing now at the highest level recently. And I'm like, what is this? There was a learning curve with just everything. And I would say, again, I was blessed with a club who was really committed to put in whoever they could in front of us. And like through connections, and that's where like, the whole networking thing is like, it really follows you throughout everything. A coach had a connection to my volunteer coach that was at Ole Miss, and I was 16, no offers. Like I had gone to Ole Miss camp the summer before, and they were like not interested. They wrote me a little. Literally think I still have it. Like keep working hard, keep working on your touch, but like they had no interest in pursuing me as a student athlete. And then like not even 1 year later, like they were in Hattiesburg where I'm from, offering me a full-time scholarship. And so very untraditional story. Like usually you go to tournaments and then they're there and you reach out and they're like, hey, I'm playing on this field this day. I was doing all that work, but like just wasn't getting any offers. So I really didn't have any offers. And then all of a sudden, like I had two. And the deciding factor between Ole Miss and Mississippi State, which is probably my other highest offer or Power Five offer, was just that Ole Miss was willing to pay the full, and the other schools either weren't at the level that I wanted. And then I also knew that I brought a different type of grit to the Ole Miss style of play. I would say Mississippi State, the other school that was recruiting me, a lot more physical, a lot less technical at the time. And so I knew like, okay, I don't want to run against a bunch of really fast girls or really aggressive girls. I knew that going into Ole Miss, I would be challenged a lot more technically to kind of feel that missing piece that I know that I wanted going into college and finishing out my career. So senior Lonnie graduating, it was a dream. I never, again, like not even a year and a half before, I had no offers. And then it was like everything changed overnight pretty much. And so just not taking things for granted. I think I was like the second person from my high school to go to a Power Five school. From my club, probably like one of the first 10 maybe. And so it was really just like a surreal moment to know that I'm putting my school and my coaches on the map, but also the girls coming behind me, being able to, show them that while there's so many different pathways that it is possible, especially all of my brown girls out there that are in, sports that is you don't see people that look like you.
No, that's real there. And I'm sure like you were a crazy inspiration to whether it was the girls from your school, whether it was the girls from the club team, whether it was just the girls in Hattiesburg, like and your family as well, right? Like saying like my family member, my daughter, my sister did this, and is going to play on the biggest stage. It is super dope, and shout out to you for doing that and accomplishing that as well. And I'm not too familiar with like Mississippi geography, so we might have to do a little bit of a geography lesson for the listeners out there. But like, all right, you leave Hattiesburg,
Yeah,
and then you go to it's Oxford, correct? Like
correct. Yeah,
hottie toddy. I don't know what any of that
toddy,
stuff mean,
toddy,
but like,
toddy, toddy.
but tell me about going to Ole Miss. What's the culture like for you? From Hattiesburg going to Oxford, Mississippi, and being a student athlete at Ole Miss.
Yeah, so Oxford is about 4 hours north. So I'm from the south of Mississippi, so you literally just go 4 hours straight up. So culture-wise, it's not much different. Oxford is a college town. It's not a city. But I mean, I'm used to small towns. I'm used to, you know, the culture, I would say, of living in the South. So it really wasn't much different. I think it's just like the whole town is Ole Miss. And so like going into a grocery store, I mean, it is everything about that place bleeds community, bleeds sports. Like, I think it's a huge, and also I think people don't realize, like, we don't have any professional sports teams. We don't have like large arenas. Like, no one comes to Mississippi to like see this team or see this concert or event. So for us, like, collegiate sports is like that, girl. Like, it actually is like, when you have a team, you're a diehard Ole Miss fan or you're a diehard Mississippi State fan. Like, it's not like we skate the line at all. The rivalries, the competitive like atmosphere, and everything that we do is like very intense. Going into Ole Miss, I mean, I like, again, the easy way to describe it is that it just felt surreal. Like, I just felt like I wasn't even supposed to be there, because training with players who are now playing in NWSL, it's like I'm seeing girls that I saw on TV, and I'm just like, or playing, and I'm like, what? Like, there's no way that I'm here right now. And so there was definitely that imposter syndrome / like culture shock of like, I deserve to be here. I'm here for a reason. Play your time, earn your spot. And so, yeah, I mean, I was graced with, so going into Ole Miss, I was one of two Black girls on the team. And so one of my still current best friends, Gabby Little, it was a huge inspiration to me and took me under her wing. She was a junior, I was a freshman, and we literally talk every single day still. But I think she, as well as the student athlete development staff, was the reason that my transition in was the way that it was. I felt supported, even though it sometimes can feel isolated. I still felt really supported. And then I had a great balance of meeting two of my current best friends now, like freshman summer in the dorms, just like we're in college, we're 18, and so I got really, really lucky to meet people that I really connected with early on that I still am friends with today.
Yeah, and that's so important there. I think definitely going to the PWI, but also like finding yourself one in an unfamiliar place at this big institution, and then even as an athlete too, right? Like especially playing a sport like soccer, where might not be too many people that come from the same place as you, that look like you, that think like you, that are absorbing like this new environment like you. So I think community it's so big. And you talked about it like from your roots and having your family and being grounded in that. So I think finding that community, especially early, I think is so important for athletes. And now work with athletes and student athletes. And most of them, when they play at the level that you played at, and they play at a level of a Maryland, most of them are getting recruited to somewhere that they're not from, right? And also being recruited to play a sport sometimes, and sometimes like that dynamic of like, all right, this person is only here for their sport, or like, I'm here because I got to do this and I can't make these other people mad. So I think finding community, is so important. And like you, like I found my teammates, that core group that I still to this day talk to every day. That first, I think it was like freshman orientation. We went to this little assembly, and I found some people that I vibe with right away. And like those relationships got me through those hard times where I'm like, man, don't I really wish like I could go back to the crib and just chill with my family and just like have a a home cooked meal or something like that. So like finding those things that remind you a little bit of home away from home, I think is so important to factor in like how successful you are at these institutions and things like that.
And in addition, like my dad is from about an hour and a half east, one of the ways. And so my nanny, my dad's mom, was there, but also like I had 3 cousins that went to Ole Miss, and there was girls from high school that I knew. And so I think the transition wasn't as like, it wasn't as something like, I had an example. I had a teammate coming from New York. Like, she's like, oh my gosh, what is this? And so for me, I didn't have that experience, but it was still just, being on your own, different, making those decisions, trying to learn how to become an adult was definitely just those challenges that we all face. So.
Got you there. And then as far as the athlete, like you played as a freshman, you played early on and stuff like that. So just tell me about like that development as an athlete. And like and you also, I think, did you study like exercise science or something like that? So very, very challenging major. I'll tell you a super short story. Had a bunch of my teammates that came in, they wanted to be athletic trainers. As soon as they had to take those first science classes, whoop, they all dropped to something else. So like for you, balancing being a SEC soccer player, and then balancing that with a challenging major like exercise science, like how was that balance for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just shout out to the academic and student athlete development staff at the University of Mississippi. I mean, like being on the other side of it now, it feels like you don't have the time, but you do.
Mm,
And these things matter. And so I think just from early on, like I had a lot of support with understanding that soccer does not last forever. And especially with the sport in general, like the opportunity to go play professionally, it's not as large as your big three sports. And so I would say I feel like we just have those things inside of us that just already exist and they just look different. Like you said, like mentioning being running track and doing and playing soccer and then going to class. Like I think it's just a new level, but you just get so used to the norm, like it just becomes normal. Like you have older teammates like Gabby, for example, Gabby Little, she was same major, doing the same thing, still finding ways to be involved in the community. Like I was able to watch people that I admired do the stuff. So honestly, it made it a lot easier to just fall in line. Like I think our team, like we had averaging above a 3.5 every semester. Like I think our coaches from the top to the bottom, like it, it we didn't really have an option to not meet this standard because they really prioritized um, making sure that we felt supported. And if you need additional tutors, if you need extra sessions, like since we had access to them, I think it made it a lot easier to transition. I feel like it's just a decision.
mm.
Like you just have to say, like, this is like I'm passionate about wellness, so that was really the only option for me at the time. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily answered that the
No,
right way, but I'm just like, I genuinely don't know how I was
yeah,
doing it. Um, Playing was a release of everything else. Like while it was super high stress, and a lot of times it's like, wow, I'm mentally, emotionally exhausted. It was so rewarding. Like seeing your nanny like post you on Facebook scoring a goal or being on the field as a freshman, like those small things, like they actually mean the world, especially for me and my family. And so, yeah, the small victories made those hard moments worth it for sure.
absolutely. And I think you mentioned that like the standard is the standard, right?
It
Like
is
especially
for
when you play
sure.
at that level, as an athlete, all right, you show up and you're like, all right, I gotta make this happen because this is it's just what it is, and I know that I can make this happen. So for sure, definitely understand that. And then you mentioned a little bit of like you're playing at the D1 level, you're playing,
Yeah.
super competitive, and you never know like when the game is going to end or like when something may happen. I always say like for me, like I play Division 2 football, so it's like it's a pipe dream to play at the next level. Like, yeah, one of my best friends, he's done it. Like people have done it, but it's so hard, right? I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people, some of my teammates, they just expect it. I won't say a miracle to happen, but like they just expected these things to happen. For you, I'll go in two different directions. The first direction I'll go was COVID happened, right? So shut pretty much a whole season down for you. And I was in grad school during that time, and it was crazy for me. So I can't even imagine as athletes and a lot of athletes that lost their careers to COVID. And then following COVID, the COVID season, you start your senior season, and then you go down with a ACL injury, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me about like those two like pretty much compounded instances for you to kind of finish your Ole Miss career, and like what were you feeling, and like just talk me a little bit through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So my injury happened so freshman year, you get some playing time. It's like the best thing ever. Junior year, I mean sophomore year, um, starting, fighting for a starting spot, wouldn't start, started making some big plays, and then junior year happens. It's a huge year for me, on top of the world, starting, feeling good. Um, and So my injury happened halfway through my junior season. I tore my ACL meniscus, medial lateral, and then I also tore my MCL. And so world stopped. Like I cannot talk speak enough to the mental health resources that I had while I was at Ole Miss. I had a sports psychologist who, I mean, she stuck beside me, my physical therapist. Shout out to everybody that got me through that because it was for sure the hardest thing that I had experienced up until that point. I think just battling like that identity crisis of like you think you're more than an athlete, but then when it actually is taken from you, it feels a lot heavier and a lot different versus like knowing that it's coming versus like graduating and stuff. So, um, yeah, it was devastating. I mean, mentally, I just had never been injured, never knew what it was like to sit on the sideline. And so, for somebody who just worked and grinded to get where they are, and then to feel like that rug was just ripped under you, was something that I will never forget the feeling of. But at the same time, I think when I look back and I spoke to a lot of recruits whenever I was recovering and
Yeah.
coming through, just of like, it genuinely changed who I was as a person. And I think the way that I was able to learn how to be happy for other people, I think I became a different person, prioritize things that are actually important to me. I learned how to be a better teammate. I learned resilience in a way that I didn't know it. I really struggled with my recovery with nutrition, which is kind of what started up my page that I currently have sharing that content. I lost 20 pounds during that time, and it was just a huge struggle to gain the muscle back, gain the weight back. And so my recovery process was really long. It was really tough. And then thinking about COVID, how that affected it, um, I like went through my surgery alone. Like my parents were not allowed to come into the building. And so it was like, this is the scariest thing. I'd never been in an OR. I'd never been injured. And like they kissed me, like, and I was I do struggle with anxiety. And so just, going under anesthesia, I'm like, I'm really scared. Like, this is really scary. And so to not have them with me, though, like they literally had to push me through, and they were like, we'll see you when you get out. And so being 20 and going through so many things, and you just wanting your mom and dad, you feel you're very vulnerable in those moments. That
Yeah.
was really, really challenging. But again, I think it just is the reason why facing challenges now, I can reflect upon like remembering those tough times and how I was able to overcome them with the people that were supporting me through it.
That's heavy. It's a lot to unpack
For sure.
there, for sure. Like I think those like two like traumatic types of things, right? Like of course COVID was traumatic for everyone, but
Right.
then like you in the midst of like you said, feeling like you're at the top, right? Like this is like everything that I worked towards, and then like boom, COVID, and then the injury, and then going through that as well. But like really, really important for you to like reflect what you just did on like your support system.
Yeah.
But like, having mental health team around you, having athletic support staff around you, and also having like a family, having a community around you. That's why I like for this platform, like I'm so big on that, like building community,
Yeah.
sharing stories like yourselves, because like there's a lot of athletes out there that are dealing with injuries, that are dealing with traumatic things, that are trying to figure out like, all right, who are the people that I can trust, or like who can I go to, and like how can
Yeah.
I see kind of what's out there and what's next. So greatly appreciate you for sharing that and
Yeah, of
like talking through that,
course.
because I think it's definitely important, and other athletes and other young people like need to hear that, right? Like that
Yeah.
they're not alone in this in this fight for real.
And I think it just changed so much about who I am, but also how seriously I began to take my mental health, because like I had a great social life, but now I can't walk for 6 weeks. Like my meniscus was torn, so I was in a wheelchair, and like that being something that I didn't know was going to affect like mentally, like it was just again, the most challenging thing up until that point. And so I just hope anybody listening out there, like just understands and feels heard that your mental health is so serious and so important, and that you deserve whatever support that you need. And that I hope whatever resources that you need, you can get those. Cause again, I mean, there's a huge transition from how COVID was for me. A blessing was that I got an extra year of eligibility where I was able to grad transfer to an HBCU and be there with my younger sister, Zyla. So while all those things happened, I'm like, wow, if I never would turn my ACL, I may have never would have been at Southern. I never would have played with my sister. I never would have experienced supporting her through her injury. And so, yeah, there was just like, you look back and be like, wow, if that didn't happen, then all of these things that again make you who you are like wouldn't have happened either. So
Absolutely. And I'm gonna stay right there too. So tell me about like that transition, leaving Ole Miss, graduating from Ole Miss, which is a huge, huge success there, even though you're coming back from it, coming back from injuries and things like that, but you do get a blessing and an extra year of eligibility. So deciding to go to Southern, you got to play with your sister, which is a super cool moment for you and your entire family. But tell me about that decision to go to Southern, and then how was that grad experience for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So coming off of injury, recovering, my playing time wasn't there. My coaches were like, Lonnie, you put in so much hard work, but like if you want to play, you got to get out of here, pretty much. And so I it wasn't a hard decision when thinking about, again, what's most important to me. It is my family to this day, and the opportunity to play with my sister, who is my best friend. We are a year and a half apart. I've watched her go through so many things, and I'm so proud of her. It meant everything for me to be able to kind of repay her back and like be able to share something so special with her. And so grad transferring to an HBCU was definitely an experience. It was definitely, that's the culture shock that I received. And I would say that it changed me forever. The people, the culture, the lack of resources was eye-opening, but it reminded me of why I started in the first place. And it's not about all of the glitz and glam. It's literally about coming together with people who share a goal and literally winning. Like that feeling exists across sports, it exists across industries, it exists across your life and stuff like that. So I found it very important, like remembering, why I decided to make that decision. It was like, that is what's most important to me.
Nah, that's super dope. Me and my brother, we played football together growing up a little bit. And
Yeah.
then we played 1 year in high school. My junior year, he went to my high school during the football season, and he transferred right after. But that's beside the point. But it was a super cool experience. To be able to play with my brother and be at the same school as my brother. And then I remember we played against his school. I think maybe my junior or senior year, and we got to kind of take a picture together. But you being able to play on the same team as your sister, I know that was a crazy, crazy moment for y'all and for your entire family.
Well, the craziest thing that I'm like, I don't share often, but I don't know if you know, is that my younger sister actually tore her ACL the summer before we played. So we actually didn't get to like be on the field together,
Okay.
but that was her second ACL injury. And to be there and support her
Mhm.
through an extremely challenging time is something that like I owe it all to those past experiences.
Mhm.
Like, this is why I'm here. Like, that was that aha moment that like, I'm supposed to be here. Like the person that people that I care about the most, like I like it was like surreal that
Mhm.
happened. But we were playing summer league, playing on the same team in Hattiesburg, and she went down with her other injury. And so to play for her my last season and to put everything I had and try and support a program that just won their first SWAC championship this past fall
Shout out to
season.
Southern.
Congrats to them. Yeah, seeing the program transition and continue to grow is something that I'm happy that I, even for one season, could be a part of. But yeah, no, the culture is like no other. The people, the food, like being in Baton Rouge was incredible, meeting so many great people. And then also, um, you know, playing at an HBCU was something that I never thought I would experience, but something that I never take for granted and hope to one day be able to put forth resources and more effort into as I continue to grow in my career.
Absolutely. And then you know, have your year at Southern and you're in grad school. You're there, of course, supporting your sister as well along the way. So when did kind of what's next beyond college start to kind of creep into the picture? And like, you've talked about, fitness, you being a huge person in that space and the importance that it's had to you. But also you've talked about the different people around the athletic, you know, department and the
Yeah.
support systems there. So did these things like immediately like hit you like, okay, I see the impact that the people that are working in college athletics have, but also I see this love in my journey and I'm living it the importance that my fitness journey is. So when did like, all right, fitness and student athlete development, like when did those things start to say, all right, this is what Lonnie wants to do beyond Lonnie the soccer player?
Too late. They happen too late, but we learn, we live. My first job postgraduate was my first. So after season, it was probably like November, and I'm like, oh my gosh, life is here. I did not prepare enough. I did not utilize the resources enough. I did not plan early enough, but we made it out and we continued to grow. I would say probably November, my fifth year, I'm like, I need a job. I have rent to pay, I have bills, and so got connected with somebody through my dad's church that knew someone else from a church there. And my first job was I was at YDP for the Boys and Girls Club at Metro Louisiana. So I was on site working after school, and I love the youth. I love the kids. I love seeing the joy and just like they're just so full of life, and it puts life into me, and so to pour it back into them. And so yeah, I worked there for 6 months. During that time, got my certified personal training license, started working at Orange Theory for the first time, knowing that Baton Rouge wasn't the end destination. I'm like, if I'm going to go into fitness to start, what can be consistent, what is nationwide, an organization that I know if I move I can go to. And so that's why I chose Orange Theory originally. But Southern, I mean, they just do not, HBCUs just do not have the resources that Ole Miss did in terms of student athletes, like success support. And so they were amazing and like did every single thing that I, needed. But I also, having a 4-year relationship with my staff at Ole Miss, was in communication with them constantly. And so when trying to figure out a pathway, like Raven Gilbert, I love you, shout out to you. She was like, Lonnie, you love helping people, you love sports. Why don't you just try doing this? Like, you were involved when you were here. And so that's basically what happened. Gabby, I talk about her a lot, but we have very similar paths. She went into student athlete development at the University of Alabama. And so, yeah, it was close proximity. It seemed like a great pathway, and just met the right people, connected me with the right person. And now I'm in my second year of the fellowship, and it's crazy. That's almost over, but
Yeah, and super excited for you to be able to like find those passions
yeah.
and really explore them as well. Your love for community, your love for youth. I think that's when we first connected. I think you had reached out to me when I was at Montgomery County
Mhm.
in a youth development unit, and you just kind of asked me about my experience there. And this platform here is a big thing that I want to be able to provide to youth and share stories like yours and your journey. But I think they are our future, but they're also our now as well. So like pouring into them, and just being able to show up in front of them and like just seeing the joy that a conversation can bring to them, and then you sharing your story, like you are a D1 soccer player, like you telling that to a young girl, and like just the
Right.
shock on their face and like the smile on their face and just the power that you can have,
Yeah.
but also paying it forward to athletes as well, like college athletes. I know. I've been at the Maryland events where I see like you and y'all team interact with the athletes, and I just see the joy that y'all bring to them. And the beautiful thing about student athlete development that I really enjoyed, and also youth development through sports, is like I think we're like the individuals and we're the people that like see them beyond the jersey, right? Like
Yeah.
again, there's some great coaches out there. Don't get me wrong. Like there's some good academic counselors out there. Like there's people out there. Like there's some good athletic trainers, right? But like I think like our whole job is to make sure that we're taking care of that person, right,
Yeah.
more than the athlete. So I think that's super important and impactful. And I'll get you out on a few like quick hitters and things like that, but I want you to first like just tell me a little bit about the importance of like fitness to you. Again, I was a little bit vulnerable, and maybe I'll be a little bit more vulnerable here, but just like it's a struggle, right? Like
Yeah.
working a full-time job, then doing things like this, which I'm passionate about, but then also coming out of like being an athlete where I have my routine set up for me all the time, right? Like it's hard to find time for fitness, but it is important, right? Like the wellness aspect is so important. You talked about mental health. So just talk to our audience as well. And I'm gonna put you in a seat, like you are the certified trainer here, you are the expert instructor. But I think holistic wellness is so
Yeah.
important. That's a big pillar of this platform. Is community, is exploration, figuring out what are the opportunities out there. But wellness, I think, is that third pillar, but also so important. So just talk to me about wellness and how you interpret it, and like how can people that are transitioning out of sports or like young people start
Yeah.
to think about wellness more holistically.
Yeah. I think if you don't hear anything else that I say, anybody listening will like wellness is your journey, and it does not look the same for everybody. Like you just mentioned, like your responsibilities are so incredible, and it just may not look like mine, and like I think it's important that you find the thing or the things that you can be consistent with over time, and not compare yourself to what it may look like in my life. Like wellness is a huge part of my life, but I also get paid to do it. And so, it looks different for me being in that space constantly because I'm actually working in the industry. And so I tell people a lot of times, like, you work out so much, stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm working too though. And so that's it's a priority of mine, but it's also a passion to pour into other people to have that access to, an outlet for their mental health and for their wellness. And I think growing up in the Deep South and the culture and the food and, the way that disease genetically runs through the Black community in terms of, diet induced illness. I think from a young age, I just drew that curiosity to like, what does this do to you? What does not working out do to you? Like, I mean, I like diabetes runs in my family, high blood pressure. Like, I mean, my great grandfather was like a double amputee from diabetes. Like, I mean, I got to see a little bit of things from a young age of like, okay, um, just both my parents take, I mean, I'm like not trying to expose them, but like high blood pressure medication, why do you have to take medicine before you go to sleep? You're a little kid, oh, because I have this. Okay, well, how we fix it? Well, if we potentially live a healthier lifestyle with rest and proper nutrition and activity, the likelihood of experiencing that does decrease, and that is proven through science. And so I think I just naturally drew to being my best self. In my opinion, for me, that is moving because of, as I mentioned, that I do struggle with anxiety, and movement has always been kind of that outlet to like release that pressure or feeling that I personally experience on a daily basis through things and throughout life. And so, yeah, I think that going on a 15-minute walk can be your activity, your movement for you, that time alone to reflect and just get those steps that, you're literally moving your body is totally different than you being a collegiate football player. Like your life is different. And I just hope that if anything, you walk away from this remembering that like that season, like you're in a totally different season, and like the things that you have to prioritize now are totally different. And so I just hope that anybody listening can just remember that like outside looking in, it's just the perception of what it's like is totally different sometimes than what it is. Because, for example, like I've coached 6 days this week and I maybe have worked out once. Like I've worked out on my own one. So it's just like, but since I'm in the space, it's like, oh, you're so healthy, you're so fit. But finding the balance, even for me working in the industry, it's like you literally have to find the time because being an adult is hard. But we're all going to get through it one day at a time for sure.
Yeah, we definitely figuring it out together. And I appreciate that a lot for you sharing that
Yeah,
and that insight, because I think it's important for someone that's like you said, that's involved with that space. I think it's so important to hear that. But you're still, like I said, you're still Lonnie, the human being as well.
yeah.
So I appreciate you for sharing that. I definitely took a lot of notes here, and need to implement those things as well, into my journey as well. But I, couldn't have said it any better than you did there. So I got a few quick hitters. So and then for there, and I think more conversations like this should happen. And I think you are well on your way to have these conversations and showing up to be able to impact young people and share your story more broadly. So again, definitely appreciate you. So these quick hitters that I got for you. First one, who was your favorite athlete like growing up, if you had one?
My older brother,
Okay.
Josh Carpenter.
No, that's cool. That's super cool there. And then is there anything that you're like watching right now, reading right now that you would recommend to our audience?
Mm, I am watching Forever on
Okay.
Netflix. I I love seeing people happy, and I also love seeing Black love. And so I think when you think about representation and things that you see and digest, it's very refreshing to see a Black couple. I haven't watched it in, so like don't spoil it for me if you haven't. But in general, representation on screens is important to me, and so supporting like Regina King is the direct executive producer, I believe. And so yeah, I mean, that's maybe something.
Yeah. No. Definitely, it's definitely on my list. I think I saw like a clip on like Twitter or something. And I'm like, all right, I
Yeah,
definitely got. I sent it right to Kendall. I was like, yeah, we got to check this out next time we
for
looking for a
sure.
show. Yep. So two more questions for you. This one, is there anything that you're like nerding out about? I'm a big nerd. I love to learn like marketing right now. Branding is like the big
Hmm.
one that I'm on. I'm listening to constant podcasts and like my whole IG feed is full of it. But any like topic that you're nerding out about?
Pilates.
Pilates. Okay. Okay.
Slowing down.
Okay.
Slowing down. I think it's that I'm nerding out about slowing down. My brain, if I mean, in here it's a little, it's crazy. It's fast. And so slowing down, I've been taking yoga classes again, trying to make sure I give myself that space to decompress is something that I'm nerding out about.
Okay. No, that's good. I mean, you're very calm. Like I'm like if you hear my voice, like and people on here that listen, they're like, oh yeah, he talk fast, but like I'm super excited about this stuff, so like I get super excited. But all right, and then my final question is probably the hardest one. But like I'll preface it with this. This podcast is called Athlete Alchemy, right? So the athlete going through their alchemy journey, right? So turning, I call it the athletic potential into lifelong excellence. So that's alchemy. That's that process. For you, what would you say was your alchemy moment thus far?
Can you explain that a little bit more for
Yeah,
me?
like when was that one moment where you're like, all right, I see Lonnie beyond Lonnie, the soccer player. Like
Mhm.
I see the impact that I can have in my community, the impact that I can have worldly. Like when was there a moment where things started to move in a different direction for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was October 2020 when I went through my first ever injury. And I think, again, having the support of a mental health professional to help me see that, I did not see it on my own. I know some people do and have those things, but like, again, actually stepping out of the sport or the sport being coming out of me was the moment that I said, you know, I am still a part of this team. I still have things to offer. I'm worthy of being in this environment and not being able to contribute physically. I think that was a pivotal moment in my career. But I would say, I mean, that last game and being embraced by my parents and like my sisters and even, we live not we live for those moments where you accomplish things. And so to have left the game and not have felt like I didn't win a championship, I didn't, we were in the tournament, we lost. Like I think that moment when soccer was done, I was able to remember what I was doing all of it for, and it was for them. And so to be embraced and supported during those moments was probably the turning point of like, okay, soccer stops now, but my support doesn't. My love for impacting others, my love for working with others doesn't, was definitely probably that moment that I was like, okay, you got something else you can give. So I would give that probably my number one spot.
That's real there. And I think it's important for athletes that are on that journey, whether
Yeah.
you're in the midst of it, whether you're coming out of it, is to
Hmm.
like take that moment and kind of reflect on,
For
like,
sure.
I did this,
Yeah.
and you're having family, having a community by your side, and like, there, I'm sure to this day, like they tell you they're probably texting you or like something might come up in their head and they're like, remember, when you did this? Like I know my dad, he does this all the time, whether he sees an old football picture or something and he just thinks about it. And it's just like, it's a beautiful moment and it's so important to our journeys. But
Yeah.
sometimes stopping, reflecting on why you did it, is to me, like you just said, is the most important thing.
Those memories last forever. I mean, my
Mhm.
dad, the Facebook screenshots that I get constantly of like, remember we were in Pensacola? Yeah, I don't. But like, yeah, I mean, and I can't wait to share those experiences with the family that I'll potentially have. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we all can think back and reflect, and they're just such sweet moments that we'll never forget.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Lonnie, we'll wrap it there. I want to say greatly appreciate your time here.
Thank you.
I know been a busy day for you. You've been up super early. But I definitely appreciate you hopping on the platform and sharing this. Super excited to see your next steps and the things that you're going to accomplish. We're speaking it into existence. You're already accomplishing a lot, but I'm excited to be along and kind of see your journey. So really glad that Maryland connected us, and this Big Ten fellowship connected us. So shout out, of course, to that. But I'm super grateful for your time here, and appreciate you sharing your story with the Athlete Alchemy community.
Thank you so much, Walt. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. And listeners out there, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Stay tapped in with us. If y'all have any questions, always feel free to hit me up, through my personal page, through the Athlete Alchemy page. I'll also drop Lonnie's info, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's her Instagram, in the show notes as well. So definitely show her love, follow along her journey. She definitely shares some cool stuff. And like she dropped in this conversation, a lot of gems that I think that can definitely be something that you can take and implement it into a part of your life, but also just to reflect and learn a little bit. So everyone, appreciate y'all again for tuning in to Athlete Alchemy, and until next time, peace.